Lots of kids don't like going to church, and sometimes for good reason. Join us for this important conversation today on Family Vision.
Hi, my name is Ray Reno. Welcome to Family Vision with my parents, Dr. Rob and Amy Reno, strengthening families through practical, encouraging, and real conversations.
Rob and Amy Reno here with Visionary Family Ministries. We are here to help your family follow Jesus every day. Sweetheart, I haven't even told you this story yet, but God saved me from a terrible parenting fail a couple of weeks ago in church. So I'm sitting in church, and I'm sitting next to Rush, our 10-year-old, and Rush brought his Bible and his journal. I got him a new journal a few weeks ago.
In their Easter baskets, they got these journals that you had picked out for them,
Yep.
which I was originally negative about. Remember that? I didn't necessarily want you to get those journals because I thought we already had so many notebooks and everything. I thought, why are we spending more money on journals?
Turns
But lo and
out,
behold, I put them in the Easter baskets, and they're taking those to church. And
Let's
I was
go.
like, yeah. So
Dad
that was
win.
So before you go into your fail, it was a win that he even
Yes.
he had the journal
So
at
he
church.
brought his Bible, he brought his journal, and the sermon starts. Pastor Johnson's preaching, and he opens up his little journal, and he starts taking notes on the sermon. And periodically, I'm glancing over. Now, the backstory here is that Rush is 10, and so part of his education is handwriting. And there have been a few areas of his handwriting, as I assist every now and then in this area, that I have been increasingly annoyed with, particularly his lowercase h's.
And this, of course, is really
These
pushing
are-
my buttons as you even say this, because I have.
His lowercase h's are particularly egregious. I've tried to help him. Hey, buddy, the little hump at the bottom, it only goes up so far and things like that. So I've had this conversation a lot with him about this. So I look over at his journal and I see a number of these out of control lowercase h's. And honey, I was on the brink of putting my finger over on his journal, pointing to one of these monstrosities.
Oh my goodness! And I get inside of me. I'm getting
But
frustrated.
I know, I
as
said,
you
God
even
saved
say
me.
that.
God saved me. And I didn't do it. And though I was so thankful because the Holy Spirit was like, Rob, your son
Is taking
is
notes.
taking notes.
in a sermon in church,
church.
at age 10
Yeah.
with an open heart and willing to do. Yeah.
And literally, a tear came to my
Yeah.
eye in the moment sitting
Yeah.
next to him. And I was on the brink
Yeah.
of criticizing his handwriting
Right.
when he's taking notes in church. And instead, I just leaned over and whispered to him, I'm proud of you, Rush. Good job. And we went out for smoothies after church. And I told him again, I said, Rush, I'm really proud of you for paying attention to the sermon and taking notes. So this event set my brain down a trail of realizing it's very common for kids to not really like church that much. Stereotypically, kids don't get up on Sunday morning and say, oh, yay, we're going to church today, particularly the corporate worship service. And I began to think about this event with Rush and how close I was to just being critical and negative and corrective when I totally didn't need to be. But then backing up to how many kids this is their Sunday morning experience. It's wake up, we're late. Okay, no time for breakfast. Okay, well, here's a granola bar on the way out the door. Hey, you can't wear that. We're going to church. Don't wear that. Go back and change. And then they come back and change, and we give them the late breakfast, and they spill on their shirt. Oh, go get a new one. I can't believe you said, get in the car. Okay, everybody get out of the car. Now smile. Smile, be polite, say hello to everyone. And then when we're in the church, it's sit there, quit that, pay attention. Church is wonderful. You should love it. And to think about how many times on a typical Sunday morning a kid is getting negativity, correction, hurry up. You don't
just stress in the
stress,
home.
anxiety,
Stress, yeah.
you don't look right, whatever it is, and thinking about how the cumulative experience of all those things add up to a pretty unpleasant experience for a lot of kids.
Absolutely. When I was growing up, I think one of those accumulative difficult experiences is the realm of teenage girls. When you're a teenage girl, every day that you go out, whether it be school or to church, what you wear and how you look becomes a top priority. And, you get up late, but it's important for you to look the certain way. And just one funny story that I remember.
You're beautiful when you roll out of bed.
Right. Ready to go to church just when I roll out. I mean, I definitely remember in Sunday when I was growing up having times, especially in high school, of just not wanting to go to church, that being a battle with my parents. And then part of the battle, too, was then, the getting ready for church and what to wear. And, of course, back then things were a little bit dressier than what now I will say a lot dressier than what they are now. I mean, jeans at church is pretty acceptable at most churches these days, but that was not the case when we were growing up. You'd have to dress up or dress differently. And this is more of a funny story, but there was a phase going on in my high school where girls were wearing white T-shirts, white undershirts, and they were often borrowing their dads or brothers, white, regular shirt. Do you know what I mean? As
like
a top.
A man's undershirt?
A man's undershirt as a top. So I came to the car wearing one of my dad's.
This is a Midwest thing?
Well, no, I don't know. It was
keep
just,
going.
But anyway, I don't know. I came to the shirt wearing my dad's undershirt with a skirt. I thought it was a good look. And he just freaked out and told me I absolutely could not wear that. And I really did not understand at all where he was coming
Sounds
from.
like good fathering.
I was it's just a white shirt. He was absolutely 100% just adamant that I could not wear that to church, and I had to go back and change. And of course, a teenage girl cannot just change. She's put a lot of effort into that ensemble.
Into the white shirt?
Yeah, it obviously was there was a tie that had to be done on the side. It was the 80s.
Very complicated.
It was a plan, and it was just completely, and I just remember being so angry at my dad, because he made me go in and change, and I had to figure this out.
Because you had a whole closet full of nothing to wear?
I did have a whole it's a true statement half the time. But so all that to say is I can still remember it quite vividly with my dad, and yeah, it was actually very good parenting, but we've been in that case before, right? When you're ready to go out the door and someone comes down wearing something that's but it's a hard decision as a parent at that point. Do I fight this battle or do I not fight this battle because of everything you just said? And I would say there's times to fight the battle and there's times to not fight the battle. And you just have to look at each other and trust and pray. What's the more important value? Is it more important that your daughter or everybody is coming to church willingly and having a good attitude about it, or even just coming willingly is, for a teenager, I consider that a win, because often teenagers, I like to say to parents, a teenager doesn't do anything that they don't want to do. So if a teenager really doesn't want to go to church, they won't go, period. They just won't go. So if a teenager is up and willing and going, that is a win too. So, but yeah, all those things go together that can create tension and stress before you even get there.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about some of those practical ways that how can we create a more peaceful experience for our kids. Some of it probably does start on Saturday night. I know our Sunday mornings always go better, even if I know what I'm wearing the next day. And if you've got little kids, helping them get prepared with that. And I wasn't thinking about the teenage girl and maybe modesty issue coming into this, but I'll tell you how I know I've mishandled that at times. And I've been very thankful with our 3 girls. This has not been a huge battle with them, but obviously from time to time they're wearing something that I think ought to be different for whatever occasion that it is. But the mistake that I make is giving my feedback at the 11th hour.
Right.
All this time has gone in and they walk down and literally we're getting keys and walking out the door. And then I'm saying, hey, what about this? What about this? As opposed to if we did Saturday night and you have a child, or in this case, a daughter, who maybe this is an ongoing struggle or an ongoing parenting issue, well, have your conversation Saturday night with them.
But also to not get so caught up. I think it's so important not to get caught up in image and, what my kids look like, or did they bring their Bibles, or all these things that are just, are they valuable? I mean, to bring your Bible to church.
Checking your heart motives.
Yes, checking your heart motives. We're not here to put on a show. We're not here to win points. We're here to worship the Lord, to be obedient to his command, to hear what the Lord wants to speak with us this morning. To me, one of the best things we do is just praying on the way to church. And no matter what state we're in, even if we're running late or whatever it is, that we're praying and asking the Lord to speak to us that morning and ask what we're going to learn about, in church that morning. I want to talk about that time when you have little kids and even single parents getting their kids to church. When you worked at a big church, you were leaving at often 6:30 in the morning, and you would be there till maybe at least 12:30 with the earliest would be when you were done, maybe 1, maybe later if there were meetings. It was a full day. And, as we had more and more children just getting to church with all the little ones when you're by yourself, it's challenging when you're not by yourself, but even when you're by yourself, it's even more challenging. And even though we lived at the house right next to the church, we lived in a parsonage, I was so frequently late to church. And church to me was going to be all morning. Like we'd get there at one service and then we'd have the youth group. So it was a full morning of whether the kids were going to be with me or be in Sunday school, where they're going to be in Sunday school for 1 hour, we're going to be in 2 hours. There was all these different factors. And then some kids that were excited to be there, little ones, some kids that were not excited at all, clinging to me, not wanting to be in any kind of kid program. So just all those factors were creating so much stress on a Sunday morning. So it was funny. I finally developed this mindset that I was no longer going to worry about what time we arrived at church, that we were going to go with well-fed kids, dressed, made sure all the diaper bags were packed, make sure we had our snacks, get all of those things. I was going to be in a peaceful place, and we would get to church when we got to church. And sometimes that meant I would go to hear the sermon in the first service and then stay for worship in the second service. So I was kind of flip-flopping it sometimes. But that's what I had to do. I had to come to that place so that I wasn't getting angry at my kids that morning. I wasn't, that was my main thing. Like losing my temper with them was something that I just was not going to do anymore. So I was going to get there when we got there and have to kind of put to death in many ways people's views of myself. If I looked like a bad mom coming late, like so be it. I had happy children and I was in a better place. Now, I like to say that if I could wave a magic wand and be on time to church with that same level of peace and contentment, I absolutely would have done that. But I struggle with tardiness, period, even before I had all those little kids. And the reality is I just can't fix my character flaws that quickly. So I couldn't figure out how to get us there on time, and that is what we did. And it was kind of comical because people would often say to me, when do you attend? What service do you attend? And I would say, oh, we go to the 8:45. And they said, oh, I didn't know Bible Church had an 8:45 service. I'm like, oh, no, they don't. That's just when we generally attend. We get there at 8:45, and we're there till like 12:30 every morning. So it's still quite a long morning at church. But again, just getting there and
Amen.
Getting there with happiness was my goal.
Yep. And thinking about that from a church leadership side of things and a church culture side of things, I can remember a lot of times as a pastor that a family would come in to church literally for the last 10 minutes of the service.
Right.
And I can remember many times, and I just asked the Lord to help me with this, to make sure that I greeted them with the biggest smile, right? Let's say one of the other pastors was preaching and I was in the back. I am so glad that you guys came today. And they say, oh, we just feel so terrible for being here. I'd say, listen, forget about that. Well done. We're just glad you're here. Come for the last 10 minutes. It's almost lunchtime. Let's all eat together. So that you're creating this culture in your church, coming together with humble hearts, ready to connect with the Lord, ready to connect with each other. So part of our encouragement practically to you would be to maybe have a family meeting, family conversation, and talk as a family to say, hey, how are we doing preparing just our hearts in a peaceful way for Sunday worship? Is getting ready for church causing stress in our relationships? Asking your kids, do you feel like we are, every time you turn around on Sunday morning or during the service, that you're getting criticized or being told to do different things? What could we do as a family, like you said, honey, to prioritize peace in our home, prioritize preparation, prioritize our relationships? Because we do not want to ever get in this situation where our kids don't want to go, our kids hate it. Our kids dread Sunday morning because of all the negative dynamics that are happening. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode, and we'd love to hear prayer requests from your family. Our team will pray for you. Our team is available to connect with you. You can email us those prayer requests at podcast@visionaryfam.com. We'd love to see you for a live event in your area. We have Visionary Family conferences all over the country in the year ahead, and you can find out when we're coming to a city near you at our website, visionaryfam.com. Click the events button, and we look forward to our next time together with you on Family Vision.